Welcome everybody to the Union 0430 episode 38, and what a treat we have for you tonight. And I'm going to have to look at my notes because I got to make sure that I get this absolutely perfect when I do this introduction. We'll talk about the fellas, but I really will introduce the fellas. But I really want to do the introduction of our guests. We've been saying for a couple weeks now that we got someone big coming on, and we do certainly have someone big coming on. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce to you brand ambassador for Rig'em Right, owner of American Waterfowl Systems, pro staff for the Christian Waterfowl Association, NASP State Bullseye 3D archery coach, certified hunter, educator, instructor, and all around good dude, Mr. Anthony Smith. How are you, buddy?
I'm good, man. We really appreciate y'all calling on us, man. It is good to be on here.
We'll get more into talking with Anthony, but we'll go around the table and we'll introduce the fellas. As always, we got Mark just outside the nation's capital in Ottawa. We've got Philly in the dirty Schwa in Oshawa, Ontario. Ryan, just outside of the provincial capital in Nova Scotia, and Dave up in Kincardine. I'm in Kingston, Ontario. Mr. Smith coming to us from Eastern Tennessee, correct?
Yeah, 10 Mile, Tennessee is where we're at, actually.
Awesome. So first off, and I know this isn't a topic that everybody necessarily wants to talk about, but I think it's something that we certainly need to shed a little bit of light on, and that was the tragedy that happened in Tennessee this week, and we don't have to spend a whole lot of time talking about it, but from all of us, Anthony, and I know it has to be a very tight waterfowl and hunting and just a tight community in Tennessee as a whole. So we're sending you nothing but prayers and big love from all of us up here in Canada, all of us here on the panel. And we certainly are thinking about just during this time, buddy.
Well, we appreciate that. It's been kind of rough talking to some of the guys, and I just think about it, kind of getting emotional right now, thinking about the guys who have been out there and we're good friends with Zach and Chance, and there's been a lot of guys step out of the woodwork and just help out, to be that shoulder, to be the person to talk to, and the big thing there is community and being there for each other, and we appreciate you guys with the prayers. We give God the glory for everything we do, and that's who we got to give it all up to, and we appreciate it. I don't know if you guys can or would, definitely, if you would, at some point share out the information. They have a GoFundMe page through Final Flight right now where you can make donations to the family, Chance and Zach Grooms. And anyway, good bunch of boys. I had the opportunity to hunt with Zach and build a duck call for him, and just one of those guys who wanted everything a certain way. I remember that about him, and it was kind of cool. Our conversation, he would tell me, "No, I want it. You're doing it this way, and I want it this way." And I was like, "Okay, well, just give me a little while. We're going to get it there, So he was a hardcore waterfowler. He was also involved in the Bethel University archery and a shooting team, I believe. But he had some good coaches over there that led him to Christ. But anyway, we appreciate you guys. Please send them our way as much as you can. Send them up to the Lord in prayer.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those that are listening, and Anthony, I know you've seen my video earlier today, but today is Bill Let's Talk Day here in Canada, and obviously for anybody that's a fan of Punisher Waterfowl and that's followed it knows my story, because I've said it. It is such an important thing, and it affects everybody differently. And something as something like this tragedy down in Tennessee, let all of your friends and everybody in your community know that you know, it is what it is, and it's a very sad time, but they need to reach out to one another and not do this in silence, and not go lock themselves in the basement. And
Right.
you know what? I think we can move on from it. Boys, unless you got something you want to say, we can move on. But I thought we should give a little bit of time to that tragedy. All right. Sending nothing but big love and prayers and everything to the communities in Tennessee, and we're thinking about you. Anthony, you are, as I said when we chatted last week, it's incredibly humbling for me to, you know, to reach out, and I do it. I send emails out to these companies and asking, listen, I'm doing this little small podcast up here in Canada. I'd love to be able to have somebody from your company to come on, and it, you know, it's intimidating, like I told you, because I know that a company, you know, much like American Waterfowl Systems, rig 'em right. You get these asks every day. Somebody is asking for something every day, and I don't want anybody to open up an email from me and be like, oh, it's another one of these jerks that just wants something for nothing, right? And you know, and Heather fired back a message. She was like, absolutely, you need to talk to Anthony. Anthony's the man that you need to talk to. And within a day, you're calling me. We're on the phone for 45 minutes just chatting about everything. And you know what? It says a lot about your character, and it says a lot about who you are as a person, to be able to come on and spend your evening with us. I'd love it if you just took some time and for our listeners that don't know the man Anthony Smith, and give us a little bit of an introduction of who you are, please.
So yeah, everything that you talked about right there, with archery to being a Rig 'em Right ambassador. I'm basically the guy from Rig 'em Right who travels around the Southeast. You know, I go to Max Prairie Wings, I go to Final Flight, I go all over the place. I travel the country and get to hang out with cool people like you guys on the weekends, right? And just introduce you to our products. You might see some of my photography on Rig 'em Right's Facebook or Instagram or any of those things. You also may see some of my writing in Christian Waterfowl magazine. I've been in there several times with some other great writers and stuff. I've also been able to be a part of producing some calls for different companies. That's one of the things that I love to do is make good calls that sound good, that look good, have a good packaging to them, I guess you could say. I like to make handmade stuff. I do some CNC stuff. I don't have as much time as I used to involved in that, but hopefully we'll get there back at another point. But yeah, I'm just the average guy, man. I hunt in public land a lot of times. Yeah, I do guiding trips and stuff like that with a lot of cool people. But I put my pants on just like everybody else. I pull the jerk cord just like everybody else. I have a shotgun jerk cord call in one hand. I'm just that guy, you know. We do a lot of scouting. We get out there. We it's tough hunting here in East Tennessee, but we are pretty successful at it. And we have some good friends we also hunt around in different parts of the country with. So maybe we can share more of that here in just a minute.
Absolutely.
But anyway, Education is a big part of what I do. I actually love to teach people about waterfowl, about hunting in general, about the safety of hunting in general. And, I feel like if we get out there and instruct them, then we have more to benefit than we've actually lost, because we've just gained another part and educated somebody about something that they may not know anything about, from duck calling to operating a shotgun to turkey calling.
Absolutely. I just wanted to touch on one thing that you sort of skimmed on it, and I want to draw some attention to it, was the fact that some of the photography work you see on Rig'em Right. So if you've seen a child on any of the Rig'em Right photographs, chances are it's one of yours, correct?
Well, some of the
you're
older
thinking
stuff,
of
yeah,
celebrities
yeah.
too, you know?
Yeah, there's one that was really, really popular years ago. It was a young man who had a big deluxe blind bag over his shoulder. And that was the hunt where I realized that my son has now grown to the point to where he's carrying my stuff in. And I'm not carrying him in. I'm carrying all of his stuff in. So he's like saying, Dad, come on, So anyway, I got to take that picture and just kind of, have that as a thing. I looked actually on my, I think Facebook last week gave me a memory of him, and he's actually going through a flooded impoundment that has sawgrass as tall as you, and he's breaking ice the whole way with a bag on his back and ducks and stuff like that. So yeah, that was when we released the Mudslinger backpack and stuff. So yeah.
That is awesome, and memories that you'll hold on. And I want to sort of kind of shift again, just because I know it from when we talked on the phone. But your son, who you've coached with archery, is quite an accomplished bow hunter, archery, 3D. Like, he's won state championships, correct?
So yeah, 2 years ago, the last year we actually got to compete in a state championship for Tennessee. He actually, in 1 year, won the state 3D competition, and then he turns around and wins the state bullseye competition, and then my team ended up winning the whole team state 3D competition. So that was a huge year for us, and he went on later on that year, and he won second in the nation in one of the largest Christian bow hunting tournaments. It's actually held at nationals up in Louisville. Then he gets scholarship money for winning third place in the Eastern Nationals. So that qualified him to go to Worlds and stuff like that. He goes to Worlds, and his bow breaks on him. So we have to transition to another bow, and it was anxiety right there.
And anyway. Life lessons that you cannot. You just can't plan for that stuff, right? It happens. Fellas, like always, if you got anything, tell me to shut up and jump in and cut me off, because I'll keep going all night. But Anthony, I know you say that in Tennessee, you really had to hunt. You gotta do your scout. You really gotta put in the work to get at your birds, and you're successful. But in my opinion, down around your area, like, you guys are in some prime duck hunting territory. How did growing up in that area, how did it, like, what were your influences? How did you get sucked in? And it's easy to get, I would think it's easy to get sucked into this lifestyle when you're down there, but what were your influences, and how did you get bitten by this bug?
So I grew up in a town called Huntingdon. It's an Indian name for where the hunting was done. So anyway, corny joke, dad joke. I'm sorry, but anyway, but it's kind of cool. You guys have probably heard the name Seth Fields lately. He's won the World Live Duck Calling Contest. That's a young man from that same town. Young man that I look up to. I've been able to hunt with, and just a talent. He was influenced by some other guys. I was influenced by some other guys from that town also. Two of the greats that come to mind: Mike McLemore, which is a 3-time world champion and champion of champions. he was actually my next door or my neighbor just down the road from me in the same subdivision I grew up in. And then you got guys like Steve Barnett and guys who probably have watched the Duck Commander series for years and stuff like that, probably have heard that name come up and stuff. And, there's videos have been put out at Steve's place and stuff. He's just a good one. And both of those guys raised two great guys that are still in the waterfowling industry. One's a great guide. His name's Matt Barnett. He served for all kinds of companies throughout the industry and stuff like that, and represented some great companies. Hunter McLemore, which you see on a lot of the banded stuff now, he's a great guy. That was Mike's son. And these are guys I went to school with, just really looked up to, I guess you could say. And then my earliest influence from that was my great uncle. And we hunted in a place called Camden Bottoms, which is WMA. It's a drought area, but he actually had a blind right outside of Camden Bottoms for about 35 years, and called Cypress Creek. And that's kind of where I started my first hunts at, was that area right there. And started around the age of 15 with my first bird being a big mallard drake. I can remember it to this day, And his influences, I like to think about this because I've gotten to the age where I really appreciate what my ancestors have done before me. And he was taught to duck hunt by the Earl Dennison family. And Earl, if you're familiar with Reelfoot and Reelfoot calls and stuff like that, Earl was a big influencer for that area all the way up into the 80s and stuff. And, from there, I went and volunteered for Ducks Unlimited, NWTF, anything that I could be a part of to get to be able to hunt in the field, and be a part of some great people and stuff. And that kind of opened some doors up for me and allowed me to meet people and hunt places I'd never thought I'd ever hunt. And eventually I met a guy, as you guys probably think, Buck Gardner back in the 90s was the bomb.com. He's a West Tennessee guy, That eventually opened up the door to kind of meet some of those guys like that. And a guy named Benny Marney came along, who is the owner of Hayes Calls. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Hayes Calls, but they're out of Illinois. Bob Hayes started the company there. And Benny was kind enough to kind of take me under his wing, and we started traveling around. And I've actually got that call here. One second. Let me see if I can find it here. I said I do. Anyway, I don't have it here right in front of me. I put it there. But we ended up coming up with some different calls and stuff like that. We had this a guide call, pretty much. We produced it as a youth duck call. And I said, guys, we're selling this duck call to guides. We can't call it a youth duck call anymore. So we come up with a name because we'd had another call that everybody was buying called the Badass Duck Call, right? Some people use a shorter term of that. But anyway, I said, so we're going to call this one the Little Badass Duck Call, right? Mm-hmm. And then from there, every 14, 15, 16-year-old that you saw had that little bitty duck call, that they would buy for $50 from Bass Pro Shop or Cabela's or any mom and pop around the Southeast and stuff like that. And it just kind of went up from there. And that opened the doors, I guess you could say, with Rig'em with Matthew Cagle and Heather Cagle. And I've been with those guys ever since. And, along the way, we started producing the ringtones that you'll see on iTunes, which that's actually recorded footage and stuff that we've done. And then the other side of that is we started producing our own duck calls, goose calls, turkey calls, crane calls, crow calls, and, anything we can kind of get our hands on.
That is, that's pretty impressive. Anybody that's listened to the show have heard me say it a million times, and you're living proof of it. That surrounding yourself with good people will only result in good things for you, and you are the company that you keep, right? And I think you're a prime example of where you started, and just a love for chasing birds, and now it's not your full-time job, but
Right.
but it helps you feed a hobby, and it keeps you going and keeps you still loving the things that you're doing. I wanted to go back to early in your life and this whole traveling university. Like, this is mind blowing because this doesn't happen in Canada, where, you know, a bunch of students doing fish and wildlife, and just all the universities get together for a big old competition. You guys travel down to LSU from Tennessee University, travel down to LSU and end up kicking their butts. But I really wanted to hear the story on how you got to do the turkey call and not the duck and goose call.
Oh goodness. So we had what's called Wildlife Society, and that was the members, I guess you could say, of all those guys and girls that were in the Wildlife and Fisheries Science program at the University of Tennessee. And they have them all over now. And anyway, so a couple of guys from Martin, Tennessee, and I won't name names or anything like that, but they got together and with one of our advisors and stuff like that. And we basically, you know, we had a backyard calling contest to see who was the best, you know. And I got spanked on the goose, definitely. I mean, I could not blow goose call if I wanted to, you know. I think actually at that time, my best goose call that I had was probably a sure shot goose call, you know, just the old honker, which still kills geese and stuff. But I mean, this guy had a Tim Grounds Pro Mag and he was going to town on it. I couldn't touch him anyway. And then, so goose was out, you know, that was kind of instantaneous. And then one of the other guys that was actually, I think he was working on his master's during that time. He was there, and he did the duck call stuff, and then the advisor said, "Well, we want you to be involved and stuff like that. So here you go, you get turkey." You know, and it was kind of one of those things where, dang, you know. So I show up, I take my whole vest, my turkey vest. And I didn't slouch on my turkey vest. I had, like, as soon as Old Tom came out with their baddest turkey vest, I had it, you know, or Primos, whoever it was, I had that joker, you know, and it was full. It had a gobble shaker. It had all my diaphragms. It had all my slate calls and stuff like that. And back during that time, I loved Cody stuff. Cody make awesome turkey calls and always have. But that and a Preston Pittman Black Diamond, you know, and the old Primos gobble shaker, I guess you could say. So I knew that I probably couldn't beat these guys I was calling against, because they had actually qualified for the NWTF National and stuff. There's two guys who had actually won regional stuff. And I was like, dang, I'm not going to beat these guys. So first up comes Goose, and it was just a pushover. You know, they won it. Yay, Tennessee. You know, everybody raises, you know, a glass pretty much. And Duck comes up next. And you got to remember, this is taking place in, like, the ag campus at LSU. And there's literally beer trucks pulling in and just hand delivering stuff. There's broilers going on that are throwing crawfish on newspapers and cardboard boxes and stuff like that. And you've got the biggest, best schools, I think, you know, in the Southeast: Florida, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, Georgia, you know, Vanderbilt, all these different guys, Tennessee Tech. So both guys who won the duck and the goose, they looked at me, and I'm the last guy to go up, right? So I literally do what they do at the NWTF. If you've ever seen one of those multi-use, multi-purpose calling contests where you can use a gobble shaker and you can use a diaphragm, you can use a slate call, I did all of that and strutted at the same time. So if you can just imagine that. Anyway, it was close, but I ended up pulling out the win, and it was a great evening. It just really was really cool.
That's awesome.
Was that performance influenced by alcohol in any way, shape, or form?
And is it on video somewhere?
I could say today, guys, I don't do that stuff. I don't drink. My wife and I are youth pastors and stuff, so we help our youth out. So I feel like, you know, today anything like that really hurts my influence. But back during that time, if it was wild turkey, I probably had it. So anyway,
That's good stuff, boys. I've been going long enough, so if you wanna chime in, go for it.
Yeah, I got something. You mentioned obviously you like to use a jerk rig whenever you're duck hunting. What's
Yeah.
your favorite jerk rig setup?
So I've published a couple of different things about this. Probably my favorite setup is by using about 4 individual jerk rigs tied together. Okay. And if you think about a dog's leg, right? So it's smaller at the bottom and then splits off kind of at the top, right? So what we'll generally do with our jerk rig setup, I have a 12 slot decoy bag. So we'll run first 4 decoys out as far as we can with the wind and come back, let's say 40 yards to the blind. We'll make sure that line is taut. So it's got some pull to it, right? And then I will basically walk back from the blind about 10 yards. So we're, if you're 40 yards, 30 yards, something like that, that's basically where we're kind of going for. And we're going to split off and make a Y, right? So what happens is a lot of times with the wind and stuff, you're wanting the duck's attention to be in that landing area. So that's where we try to push those decoys to, is where they're going to land either in the pocket or on the edge, because they look right at that. Once those two come together, we pull that line into the blind, right? So 2 jerk cords coming together, 1 line pulling it. Run that line into the blind. If it's on a bank, if it's in a blind, if you've got a temporary setup, any of that stuff right there, bring it right in there. Leave room for you. You're going to run the other side of that line directly out the opposite end of the blind to give you motion on the other side. So if we're going with a U or a V in front of the blind, I may have those 2 sets of jerk rigs over here, 1 line coming in, 1 line going out, and I've got a third over on the left-hand side. And we play that to the wind itself. A lot of guys get confused about how to set that up. It's real simple. If you start with 1 line, run it directly to the blind like you always would, go right back out, come 10 yards further in, and just split it off at an angle, right? Throw your decoy as far as you can throw it right there. Make sure that line's tight, and just bring it right back into your main line. Tie it on, clip it on. We use carabiners. We'll just tie a knot in a line, clip that carabiner directly into it. So you basically end up with 3 of those. Okay. So that's the dog leg. That's kind of our common one we do. We've been known to run up to 6 jerk rigs in a setup. It's kind of hard when you have a dog, running that setup and stuff, but it can be done, and it definitely does. I tell the guys the circus is coming to town, because we're going to have every decoy in the spread basically moving or have motion going on. And I went to Reelfoot a few years ago. We weren't shooting any ducks. They just weren't coming down, right? So we were at a pretty good outfitter, and I said, guys, we got to get something. We got to do something. So I kept what's called a mega motion, and I honestly think it was an okay product, and it just needed a little bit more education on it. But anyway, that mega motion you really can't find much anymore. It's still out there at a few retailers, but it's a great little package. So it has 3 jerk rigs in it, and each jerk rig looks like this right here. Okay. And that's very similar to our deluxe jerk rig that you'll see on our website right now. But we basically use that setup and put motion on the water, moving every single decoy we could. And ducks started circling in. We started killing ducks like we weren't before. It makes a difference when you use those jerk rigs. And the thing about it is there's no batteries, unless you want to buy an auto jerk. There's nothing wrong with that right there. But you can always set it up real quick. It doesn't take a lot to set it up, I kind of get elaborate with it, but here we want to make it look as real as possible.
I think
Well,
that's one of the, sorry, Mark, but that's one of the most underutilized things that I know amongst, like, I don't use a jerk rig. I own one, I own a rig and rate jerk rig. It's in my decoy bag, but I never put it out because I don't like I can't get the thing to work the way that it's meant to work. I think, you know. But sorry, I jumped in on you there, Mark.
I was gonna say, when you're running 4 lines, is that one person?
Yeah, one person is pulling 4 lines.
Okay.
Yep.
So Western
Um,
Tennessee, are you guys primarily hunting? Is it flooded buckbrush or is it cypress? Do you guys have cypress in Western Tennessee? What is it?
So yeah, if you're hunting reelfoot, a lot of times you're hunting cypress swamps and stuff and cypress knees. For me, I hunt Kentucky Lake a lot, and Kentucky Lake is big water, big islands, big blinds. And when I say big blinds, you might have a 16 by 16, you might have a 30 by 30 with 2 boat courts in it, you know. So that area is famous for, you know, just that kind of big setup, big open water spreads. Guys out there for years have used, you know, plastic jugs as their decoys to fill in the spread versus buying, you know, 10 dozen of whatever you might find brand decoy, you know. They just save up, you know, the 2-gallon or 2-liter jugs and stuff like that, paint them black, paint them white, you know, just to use as fillers and stuff. So you have big water in West Tennessee around Kentucky Lake, Camden Bottoms, if you're familiar with that. That's a lot of flooded cornfields with, you know, white oak bottoms and stuff like that. And then you've also got the islands and stuff like that where you can do either kayak hunting or layout hunting and stuff like that. So we get big rafts of ducks out on the main water and stuff. So it's good to just get out in the middle sometimes and just do something different.
I'm actually just checking out Kentucky Lake on my iPhone, and that is like that is a huge body of water. Like
It is, yeah.
huge in length. Like it's not very wide, but it just goes forever.
Right. So it basically where I'm at on this side of the state, it flows from Watts Bar, Chickamauga, Nickajack, and then you go over to Pickwick on the other side of the state where it comes back up into Tennessee. Then it turns into Kentucky Lake, and then Lake Barkley going into Kentucky. So at the widest, you're probably about a mile and a quarter probably.
Yeah.
And you'll see that around New Johnsonville, Camden Bottoms, Waverly, Tennessee. And that's it, from my childhood. You know, we were talking about that earlier. I come from a split home, and my mom. I tell guys, my mom lived in Waverly, my dad lived in Huntingdon, and what's in the middle, Camden Bottoms. So that was a lot of my influence. You know, growing up was that body of water right there, and it still is today.
Like there's a big section here down at like the southwest corner, and it's just like it looks like the duck mecca.
I got you.
Yeah.
And you touched on something there with talking about the white jugs that people would use. Like when I first started, that's what we would use. And then at the start of this season, my wife made me clean out my shed. So I went in and I found like the first set of decoys that I had. It was just like 2 garbage bags full of mallards, and half of them were painted black and whites to kind of get some divers in. Yeah. So I went to sell them, and I was just like, if someone give me like $60 for all of that's here, then that's fine. A group of kids show up and they see the stuff that I'd painted, and they're like, oh no, that's not, didn't want that, but they took all the other stuff. Like they didn't believe in the whole. I'm like, buy, you could get just Javex bottles with a little bit of black paint on them. Will bring in stupid divers, right? So yeah.
So I once heard a story from my uncle my great uncle is a really good storyteller, and he's traveled the country also hunting waterfowl and stuff. So one of the challenges that they did when he was right out of college was painting a decoy pink, yellow, blue, whatever color wild color you can think of, just to see if the ducks would respond to it. And it didn't matter. That's what I thought was cool. Back then, it didn't matter. They had pink decoys and they still come into it. So, if it catches their attention, if it looks somewhat real, they're going to come in.
I really wish that I was around back when the first motion ducks came in, and that was a new thing. Could you imagine, like, just, you're the first guy that in Ontario with 2 motion ducks, and you set them out there, the spinning wing decoys, and like just sucking them in like a vacuum. It would have been just amazing back then. But
So I have stories of that. If you want to talk about that. So 1996 or 97, I think it was, right off the top of my head.
I was 12.
Okay. Well, I would have been like 17 maybe. My dad and my uncle build their own after they kind of heard about somewhat plans of building them and stuff like that, and they decided to go to Arkansas with one. And I'm not allowed because I have to be in school. So anyway, they come back with just tons of ducks and just murdering them every day. And the thing that gets me is, you know how a goose will flip upside down to let its air out of its wings? Imagine a duck doing that at 10 yards onto a mojo. But not just one duck, every duck that saw it. And that just blows my mind, you know?
That'd have been definitely been something to witness. Sorry, Dave.
The biggest mind blow I saw this year for decoy setups was I hunted Walpole Island. And when we're driving towards the field, I'm looking at other fields and I'm looking at, oh shit, it looks like there's ducks or geese back there. And we put the binoculars on it. No, it just looks like these black dots in the back. We're like, what the hell is that? So then when we get to the field, I asked the guy, what's that? And the guy that had the property, he says, oh, those are called mud sets. And it's like an old traditional way where you'd take the stalk of the corn, you'd pop the dirt off the bottom, you'd flip it upside down, and you'd have the dirt from the corn stalk being held up by the corn stalk. And that black dot just out in the middle of the field, it just looks like a decoy out there. It was the weirdest thing, but they use them to fill in. It was yeah. I took a few pictures, but I didn't know how to explain it for an Instagram story, right?
I would just reproduce it like what you're talking about. Just take the picture and tell the story, because I mean, some good stuff, you know. If it's worth talking about, it's worth writing about. That what you just expressed, you know, old style or a different style of a setup for fillers. I mean, that's huge to a lot of people, you know. People invest thousands and thousands of dollars in decoys and stuff. And a lot of times it just takes some simple knowledge and some simple practice just to help save some money, you know?
Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right there with the costs that it takes to have, you know, a half decent rig, a setup, anything. And I don't know, maybe the jury is still out on birds are getting smarter. Just with everything that's on the go with these robo ducks and all this other, maybe there's something to be said about going back to the old ways. You know, you mentioned that motion rig that you had a bunch of years ago, Ryan. I remember your dad had one of those like first like giant friggin' jerk rigs or something, didn't he? Like,
yeah, I can't remember name what brand it was. It wasn't Rig'em but actually, I have the Rig'em right one right there. But he had the one that is like, it came to like a cross section, and it was like fiberglass rods. It was probably about 18-inch single length and 18, and you'd strap four floaters to it, and the motion you would get from one little jerk on that rig was pretty good. But I mean, we're not nearly as public competitive as what you guys are, obviously in the South. So this, you know, this mass motion that you guys have to put up is it's essential. Like you got to do it. Like it's like Friday Night Lights pretty much for you guys. I mean, you're competing with a lot of other guys who are, everybody's calling and throwing out 10 dozens. You got to have, like you said, as real as you can get. Otherwise you're just going to be watching rather than killing.
I think the one you're talking about sounds like the Motion Ducks one. It's like 4 tent poles on a hub.
Yeah, that's what it is. It might be, but I wouldn't even know. He had it. I don't know where he had gotten it. He might have made it. He's squirrely like that. He wanted to make motion decoys in like the 90s and people, or the 80s, and people thought he was crazy. So
look who's crazy now.
Yeah, old Dougie. Dougie was before his time.
Yeah, he was. He just didn't have the business savvy. That's for sure.
Anthony, tell us about, so obviously now, you know, you're a dad, you're a youth pastor, you write. you have a 9 to 5, I'll say a 40-hour week job, plus all the stuff you do for your own business with rig 'em right, with everything. What's your hunting season look like now?
Whew. So we're lucky enough. We're one of 5 states in the U.S. that actually get an early wood duck season, and I feel like that's a really cool thing for us. And we normally start around the first week of September with hunting wood ducks and teal. A lot of states have teal season and stuff, so we get to kill wood ducks for about 5 days. Our state has had a very, very good program when it comes to collecting nesting numbers and different things for several years. And I count myself lucky because I've been involved with the state and Ducks Unlimited and bringing Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts and just trying to introduce people to that part of the outdoors and get them involved just by, taking numbers. So anyway, with wood ducks being kind of our prize deal here in Tennessee, we get to start around the first week of September and hunt for about 5 days on wood ducks and teal, and then it splits off and we get to hunt teal by itself along with goose. And that will start for about 15 days and stop and then restart in October, and then of course restart in December for us. But our late season, by November, I'm normally around Maryland or up in Maryland, either sea ducking or goose hunting up there the first few weeks of the season. From that, we come back to Tennessee, and normally my opener is going to be in West Tennessee, back in my stomping grounds and some of the holes I used to hunt over there. Like I said, we hunt Kentucky Lake and stuff over there. And then we close down normally for about 5 days and then reopen for the second split. And by that time, I'm back here in East Tennessee. We're hunting public water around here. We really try to get out early, do our scouting, do all that stuff like that beforehand. And I'm one that camps out all night if I have to get a good hole, So we're on it if we need to be, and if we're not, then we're right behind it or something like that. But a lot of times that's what it takes, is just getting out there before anybody else and making sure you got that spot. I hate to call it squatting. I don't think it's squatting. People have the right to get out there whenever they want to. It's just we try to be out there earlier than everybody else.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Early bird gets the worm, right?
Yeah, that's
exactly right.
That we deal with. We deal with it a lot, and I remember a hunt, Ryan, where you and another buddy of ours, Mark and I, we got to sleep in beds that night. But you and another buddy of ours, you had to camp out for a goose hunt on a field just to make sure that it didn't get gobbled up and taken by somebody else. So it's it's one of the things that you got to deal with, I think.
Yeah, we hunt a lot of what we call TVA land, which is Tennessee Valley Authority. It's a power company. And so we hunt their land. We hunt, when we can, the WMAs, which are wildlife management areas. We're not allowed to hunt refuges here for waterfowl and stuff. So we do have a refuge just directly south of us that has one of the largest wintering grounds for sandhill cranes. And that's kind of, I guess you could say, for this area, that's its kind of pride and joy right now, or that's its namesake, is our sandhill crane hunting that we have here. And it's pretty awesome. We don't get to kill a lot of birds. You actually have to draw and get at least 2 permits over the statewide draw. If you're at one of the local handheld drawings, they normally will give out 400 hunter permits with 3 permits to each hunter, or 400 hunters, I guess you could say. And we crane hunt normally. By the time it's in like early December, we're either back in West Tennessee or we're planning a trip. Like we just came back from Texas and with Wade and the guys down at Dry Creek. We go back to Maryland some. We hunt Alabama some. We hunt Arkansas and Missouri some. So it's just, we kind of fluctuate with the birds. We really try to, I'm not going to say internet scout or anything like that, but we scout the birds. We talk to friends. We talk to people around, say, hey, where's the birds at? And then we try to get boots on the ground and figure out what's going on.
Absolutely.
So you got this big set of Rig'em Right stuff behind you. Why don't you go through a bit of it there and give us a little rundown?
Oh, man. All right. So you guys want to hear about this guy probably, since you haven't really seen much of it. So
Mhm.
this is a new product for this year, the Bucket Gear Belt. It works on the Yeti buckets. So it basically operates the same way as the Yeti Gear Belt, except this one is designed for hunting. You can see there compartments for phones, compartments for thermoses, compartments for shells. It's a really, really cool deal. This comes in Optifade Marsh also. A lot of guys like the Optifade stuff. It's just a really well held up bucket belt. One of the other things, I guess you could say, for those who just kind of know, every duck hunter needs a little duct tape, I guess you could say. So that's my spec call held together with duct tape right now. We make lanyards too. That's one thing some people don't know we make. It's a really cool lanyard right there. This one has got 4 drops on it. You can see my finisher right there. That finisher's been through some sea ducking, been through some geese down in Texas, mallards and widgeon here. But that's one product that a lot of people don't know we make. Everybody knows we kind of really helped start this industry movement with these guys.
Mhm.
This is the newest version of those right there, and it's actually our extreme rigs. These are the 36-inch right there. This comes with a large carabiner with the float on it. These have diamond weights on them, which you can see that, which is a non-slip weight. And the biggest thing that you'll see different in the extreme Texas rigs is basically the type of cord that it uses. A lot of people use monofilament and stuff like that. This is actually a coated cable right there. And a big, huge difference that you'll see with our rigs is we actually have a true lifetime guarantee. Okay. You have a problem with these guys, call us up, call customer service, and we'll send some replacements out to you. You know, we want to make sure that you have quality products, and that's why you buy Rig'em Right stuff. I feel like is we try to make a good quality product. If it does fail on you, call us. You know, you might get someone back at headquarters. You may actually end up talking to me. I get some of the phone calls for customer service and stuff like that, but they are definitely there to help. These are a great set of rigs right here. They are brown coated. That's the way they come right there.
And
so,
just for anyone listening, like we are Canadian up here, mostly listening. I actually bought a set of those, and I had a problem with one of the rigs. And I just messaged. I was just more wondering like what the crimp was, and I was going to recrimp it myself. And they gave me the crimp size. They wanted my address. They were going to send me stuff out right away. Like super nice to deal with. Rig'em Right was great for that. Great customer service.
So
Solid.
the next thing I'll show you guys is this right here. This is our full choke gun case. And I mean, you can see this has been out in the field a little bit, but we mini pearl a lot of things. So if y'all know who Mini Pearl is right there. Mini Pearl always kept a tag on her hat. She was part of the Grand Ole Opry. But anyway, this is a full choke bag right there. It's a floating bag. It uses Velcro to actually attach and come across. And my gun is actually 30 inches long. I use a Super Black Eagle 1 that's been customized by Rob Roberts, and it fits just fine in here with a turkey choke on it. I shoot turkey chokes through waterfowl, and I shoot it during turkey season. So a lot of people will ask us if a long gun or a big gun will fit in here, and it will. I mean, I've got 30-inch barrel close to on it. It's a 28-inch barrel with turkey choke on it. A big difference also with full choke is the reinforced tip. You'll see a lot of gun cases out there that don't have a reinforced tip right there. And this has got that good reinforcement on it. You can see it bend just a little bit, but it's not going to come through that either. You guys got any questions about anything I've showed you so far?
Well, it's funny you say that about the gun case. Like, guys will spend $1,000, $2,000 on a shotgun.
Yep.
Oh, Christ, to get them to spend more than $20 on a gun case to protect that investment, like they can't fathom it.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're spending a lot of time running in a like more so, a boating environment where like that floating gun case is essential. Like if you're ripping down a lake and your gun falls out, you turn around and go back and pick it up. If you're just walking through a marsh, you drop your gun, not a big deal. You can bend over and just grab it, right? But like for those guys that run boats on the regular, just like spend a couple extra bucks, get a good case for your gun. Like you spend all this money on your gun, get a good gun case to look after it. And like that rig and right one, like the protected, toe on or whatever you want to call it. Like I've got some floating gun cases here. Yeah, the ends of the cases, they're blown out.
Yeah,
worn out. There's holes in them. Like spend the money.
Yep.
Anthony, could you talk a little bit about rig 'em right and how the industry was full of call makers, decoy makers, and then decoy makers were doing bags that went with their decoys and stuff, and then rig 'em right came along and just said, listen, yeah, this is awesome. It's awesome that we have all of these decoys and stuff. They totally revolutionized the industry when they said, listen, I don't care about decoys and I don't care about calls. Here's the stuff you need to make your calls and your decoys, and here's the stuff you need to make it to work. And you talk about the Kegels, like how did did they wake up that morning and go, you know what, like let's start just doing the accessories. Let's not worry about the decoys and the calls and the guns. Let's worry about accessories. How did that happen?
So just kind of, I guess you could say how they started out was definitely with the rigs. The story that Matthew gives is he basically made up, I think it was like 3 dozen or so or something like that, and they had a good stock supply. Let's put it that way. And first day they sold out, just absolutely sold out of everything. And it was the old slide ball style with the weight sliding up and down the line, different than the extremes, right?
Yeah.
The extreme has the loop near the head and you just pick it up or whatever. Back then they had the slide ball, and of course it had crimps and all that stuff like that where it could rotate and everything, but the ball would slide down the line. People just fell in love with it. I mean, just almost instantly. And they had to go and build more, right? And forgive me, I wasn't around during that time, so I may not be telling the story right. But anyway, they had to basically build that night and restock for the next day because they'd sold out of everything. And from there, it just kind of started going. The next thing they introduced was the jerk rig, and the jerk rig was in a way endorsed by a man named Phil Robertson, who I absolutely look up to and always have. I was the guy who was renting not DVDs, but VHSs back in the day to watch him. So
you're dating yourself, buddy.
So, dude, Mr. Phil's great. I've had the opportunity to meet with those guys, Miss Kay, and hang out with them. They're just special people. I love them to death. But all those guys are. But anyway, he kind of introduced that and endorsed it, I guess you could say, and people loved it. It was small, it was compact, it was simple. It didn't take a whole lot to do to set out and stuff. Definitely there's some preparation and stuff like that. You got to do those decoys you're going to stick on it, make the hole a little bit bigger, a lot of times. I think there's a lesson to be learned there with every decoy company. If they would just make that hole just a little bit bigger,
Yeah, try to get those swivels. In here.
Yeah. And I've tried it with their brands and stuff, and it's still the same way. But anyway, there's maybe a few out there that made that change. But anyway, he started producing those jerk rigs, and man, I've been in the Max Cray Wings for a show and showed up, and there would be absolutely no jerk rigs. Like people would literally go in the first day of the sale and buy every single thing that they had. We came out with a Mega Motion, and I can remember going down. Guys like, well, we don't have regular jerk rigs, but we got this one that's got 3 in it. Okay, boom. And from there, they started developing the what used to be called the DP3. And the DP3 actually was a fully floating blind bag, kind of like a doctor's bag that opens up at the top. And they made 3 different sizes in it. Now that's called the long haul. It's called the tanker. That's the name of them now since the DP3's gone away. But DP3 was my go-to bag. I mean, it had a fully floating bottom, had backpack straps. It was that one blind bag that would not hit you in the back of the calves or the shins, when you're walking through the middle of a jungle of woods, trying to get to your hole, and you weren't bouncing everywhere. It stayed the same size as your body. It was designed to be held like a backpack or a backpacker's backpack. It was high. It wasn't low. You could, hold your gun and carry your decoys and a blind bag if you wanted to. You might be loaded down, but that bag would easily hold 2 to 3 dozen decoys. Anything that we needed to get out there, it could do that. After the DP3s were introduced, they came out with slotted bags, of course, and a lot of guys are fans of what we call the deluxe slotted bags now that we have, and I have those. Actually, this bag that I've got on the floor is one of those, and those slotted bags, I keep kind of my pride and joy decoys. My decoys, I want to always stay nice, to look nice. And we use one of those bags just for the jerk rig. So, we were talking earlier about sticking 4 on one rig. So that is my 3 setup right there in that bag. It's kind of set, ready to roll. Everybody knows what's in that bag right there. But,
I've got a little confession to make, and the boys all here are fully aware of it. So when you brought up the tanker bag, so a bunch of years ago, when I'm trying to figure out exactly what Punisher waterfowl is going to be, and I'm really trying to carve my own way. Well, sort of cheating, but trying to carve my own way. That was a bag, the tanker, that I copied, and I made just a couple changes that I wanted, and I copied that bag and tried to sell it. But you know what, the Rig'em rate, you just couldn't. It was a tougher bag. It was a cheaper bag than what I could sell it for, because obviously I'm not selling in mass productions, and the whole thing. But I felt I had to throw that little confession in there, just in case the listeners that did know, hey, you're talking to Rig'em Right. Didn't you copy something from Rig'em Right a bunch of years ago? So I just wanted to make sure that everyone, I totally acknowledge the irony here. So
Rig'em Right was so groundbreaking. Like,
Yeah.
I remember like being in like late 90s, like just like these little problems, these pain in the butt problems you would have in the field or the marsh, whatever. And along comes this company that just kind of like, well, let's emphasize like what makes logic sense when you make a bag for a waterfowler, and things like the shell holder, like just like simple common sense thing. Like, I still have my blind bag, the little XL. I've had it since, I don't know, since they first came out,
Yeah.
And then of course the marketing, here's this guy going through a marsh with face paint, with 3 dozen decoys in waist high water, flooded cypress, and he looks like Jesus. And I'm like, my God, like these are my people. This is my company. Like, you guys, they just did it right off the hop, and they haven't looked back. Like, there's lots of people trying to, not picking on Damien, but like there's lots of people trying to emulate, but there's nobody who comes close as far as accessories in the waterfowl game.
It's weird, if you've ever followed me around the stores and stuff, they have our stuff in all kinds of areas of the store. So I get to walk somebody from the decoy aisle over to the blind bag aisle, over to the dog aisle, and then before you know it, they've got a shopping cart full of Rig'em Right stuff, and they're like, I need that, I need that. And if y'all seen any of the social media this week, in the last several weeks, we've had a lot of dog pictures on there. The blind that we have for our dog, the bully blind for dogs. That thing right there is totally different than pretty much any other blind you're going to see out on the market. And there again, you have other people trying to copy similar ideas and stuff like that. And I think everybody maybe have their place in that too. Everybody, if it can benefit you as a hunter, go for it.
If I can make that. That is the tanker bag with 37 lifetime decoys in it.
Heck yeah! Oh yeah!
It's a big bag.
Yeah,
I've got one of the bags, and they're awesome.
Yeah. The tanker, before they changed it to the tanker, it was the DP3 XL, I think, and they actually had backpack straps on it. And you're looking at somebody who actually had close to 5 dozen decoys on his back in one of those, and it was more than I wanted that morning. It was absolutely more.
I feel Rigger Mite's like kind of been a front runner / innovator in the industry, because like all these big companies, all their big focus has been on decoys. That's been like where everyone's chasing the unicorn or whatever, right? And then Rigger Mite's like, nobody's making this stuff. Well, we might as well cash in and fill the void, right? And I've owned a number of Rigger Mite products throughout the years. Like I've got one of the jerk strings. It doesn't get used because I run a dog for the most part, and it's just a disaster trying to fight a dog and rope and stuff. But like phenomenal product for the couple times I have used the rig. Like it's very well thought out, well produced, well manufactured. And again, like the tanker bag and such, like that big open mouth stand up bag. You're not fighting with something that's flopping over and all this other nonsense. And like I'm a diver hunter, and I got a Lund Alaskan, so you got the big open concept floor. I can sit that thing down and it's not going to go anywhere. I can leave it open. I can pop decoys, just fire it in, shove it off to the side, and keep going. Like it's very unique product.
Those blinds, one of the greatest things I love about them is they have a pyramid shape to them when they're closed, right? And they're cinched up. So the way we run those is we have a big flat front on the boat right there, and we'll take 3 of those guys. We'll stick 2 side by side, so they're basically making 2 pyramids, right? And then we'll flip the third one over, boom, right on top. You got basically, I want to say 4 dozen in each one of those, or 3 to 4 dozen in each one of those. So you got, a big spread right there. It's not taking up much room. It's not going anywhere, 2 guys can handle it because they've got the handles on both sides, That's what I love about that bag too, is the handles on each side. You just tag team it, and the guy grabs one side and I grab the other, and we're going,
So what do you got coming up new that you can tell us about? Huh? Anything in the works?
Well, I know there is stuff, guys, but I don't have anything to show you guys right now. I know Matthew's got some cool stuff planned. He always does. The big push, I think, we've introduced some new beanies. If you've never used any of our beanies, we've got new beanies, new T-shirts this year. We actually had a collaboration with a young man from North Carolina and or the Carolinas, to paint and create these T-shirts this year.
Is that really Tyler Spitz?
Yeah. It's not Tyler Spitz. No, it's not Tyler Spitz. There's actually another gentleman out in the Carolinas. And sorry, I just forgot his name right off the top of my head. But anyway, if you see the pintail, the wood duck,
I did see those
shirts and stuff. Yeah.
It's on. Seen them.
Yep. All right. Good. What else, guys?
Well, I think, we're almost at that 60-minute mark, Anthony, and I don't think we've really even scratched the surface on what we can ask you. So right now, I want to extend the invite for you to come back on again, because I think you're a wealth of knowledge, and you represent the right thing. And we didn't even get a chance to talk really about American waterfowl systems and call Megan, because I know
tease you right here.
Oh, I know Dave is making his own calls as well, and I know he would love to be able to bend your ear on some of that. So I'd love to extend that invite to you and let you know that anytime, and don't wait for an invite from us. If there's something hey boys, I think I should come on and chat about this, then fire us an email, shoot us a message, and we'd love to have you on. How I would like to end this show, Anthony, is I'd like to, as much as you're going to disagree with what I'm going to say, is that I'd like to think that you are somewhat of a celebrity, and you are a big deal within the industry. And I would like, how do you keep yourself grounded? And
Oh man.
because you came on here and you are a humble person, and you say it how it is, and how do you ground yourself? You're representing some pretty big people in the industry. So how do you keep yourself grounded?
First and foremost, I give it all to Christ. Like I said earlier, I'm nothing without him, and he changed my life years ago. And that's every time I'll say that to anybody. I've had the opportunity to sit in some big seats with some pretty special people in my life, and the people that are important to my life, that's what they told me. And guys like Phil Robertson, personal conversation with him, that's the first thing he gives it up to, and I'll do that same thing. Guys, Zach Grooms, he was a little bitty part of a waterfowling community, but to see leaders of our community take him under their wing and nurture him, and people that I'm friends with pray for him, and see him eventually saved. I look up to Gary and all those guys at Bethel that influenced him. It's people like that help me to stay humble. I'm a small P the way I look at it. I've had some really cool friends and some people that have passed on. One of my friends I looked up to greatly, he just called me a duck hunter wannabe, and that keeps me humble also, but it also adds a little bit of drive there. And people like Butch Rickenback, who took 15 minutes to invest into a guy to show him how to shape a tone board, to guys like Buck Gardner, who told me how to shape a channel and add kerfing actually into a channel on a tone board. Those are two guys that really impacted my life. You know what? They only took just a little bit of time, and that's all we got to do is take that little bit of time. Buck, I could call him today, and he would probably act like my best friend from high school. I can call on several guys, and they're just like that. And that's what I love about the waterfowl community, and what I love about getting into the blind, because we can have fun with each other. We can learn from each other. We can learn from God and what he's created for us to enjoy. We can shoot it with the best of them, but what keeps me humble first is my God and my family, and my community. And I look at it as, if I mess up, I'm messing up for my family, I'm messing up for my God, and I want to hold that first and foremost in my life.
Unbelievable, and I couldn't agree with you anymore. And I think the names that I'm looking at the fellas here, and I'm scanning around as you're saying the names of the people that you've been so lucky and blessed to have met and hung out and chatted with. And I'm looking at the fellas, and I'm seeing the reactions on their face when you say certain names, and it's just absolutely, it's amazing, and a testament to the type of person that you are, because in today's day and age, it is so easy to get caught up with knowing someone that's famous, and trying to pretend you're someone that you're not. and it is so easy in today's society for you to fall into that trap, and that goes for any of us, and myself included, because I think a bunch of years ago I did fall into that trap. So I cannot thank you, and I remember when I ended the phone call with you the other night, I said you'll never understand how awesome and how much I appreciate doing this, and you said I absolutely do, because I was you a bunch of years ago, so I know exactly how much it means to you, and that you were only too happy to come onto the show. Again, buddy, I can't thank you enough. I really do hope that we can continue this friendship, and that you can come back on the show, and please God, as we say, someday I'll actually make it down to Tennessee, and we'll actually share a blind, and hey, listen, this could happen though, because your good friend and our good friend, Mr. Jeff Coates, has got an invite for us to come hunt, and you absolutely love those sea ducks, and we're trying to plan this to go see Mr. Coates and drop in and see Ryan and shoot some black ducks in Nova Scotia. So I think we got to put this together and do this next season. Yeah, it's going to be a traveling road show, and it's going to be epic.
Awesome.
Fellas, round table, I'll give the last words to you, Anthony. Ryan, go for it, buddy.
Anthony, great to meet you, man. It was awesome. I love talking to guys from the South, because it's, even though geographically and we couldn't be further apart from how our hunting styles are, but the passion is like always exactly the same. So it's always cool to talk to you guys from the South. So awesome to meet you, man. And hopefully we get you back on in the near future.
Mark.
Good meeting you, Anthony. It's been a good conversation. I learned a lot here tonight. I always take something away from these sessions we have. Something we didn't really touch on too much. You kind of mentioned it. You're a big turkey hunter, obviously, and
oh yeah,
and I've only been at it a few years, and it's very near and dear to my heart now. It's probably one of my favorite types of hunting. And I got to ask you, so what's your favorite method of hunting? And do you like to do run and gun? Do you hunt from a pop-up line, or are you just sitting by a tree?
So most of our turkey hunting is done here on our farm. We're lucky to have a farm here, and blessed. We actually shot 6 birds off the farm here last year. 4 my son shot, 1 I shot, and then 1 my daughter shot. She shot her first turkey last year. I was normally filming behind my son and doing a couple of different things. He got a couple of solo hunts out there, but man, so birds here are very call shy. So I love posting up right down in their fly down area, where I know they're going to hit. I know I've got a very good chance of success right there. We have large populations, and when I say large populations, our wintering group is normally around 100 birds, 120 birds, something like that. Then they break up around the first few weeks of March and kind of split up in their bachelor groups and hen groups and stuff like that. But, I've got a couple of different groups around 30, 40 normally hanging around during the season and stuff like that. But anyway, I do definitely like calling. My call shop is just right out here. And how I know I field test stuff good is when I start getting gobbles and hen yelps and stuff like that from the woods directly behind the call shop. So that's happened a couple different times when we worked on different slate calls and stuff like that. So finding them, getting right in there where they want to be, let them put on the show. Don't just kill them right off the bat. Get them gobbling. That's when you can get them shaking every single tree around you, and it's so loud it hurts your ears when they're gobbling. That's when it's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. Philly.
Anthony, an absolute pleasure to meet you, sir. Keep up the great work, and looking forward to seeing more of your great content on social media.
Thanks, man. Y'all keep up with the photography. Definitely doing a good job on some of that stuff. Good job.
Dave?
Anthony, nice talking to you. Look forward to talking more.
Definitely.
That's it's sort of that must be like your kindred spirit there, eh, Dave? Like talking archery, talking turkey, talking call making, like
Right in his wheelhouse.
Yeah,
Mhm.
big time. So I think.
Did we just become best friends?
No power tools, Dave. No power
Oh.
tools.
Awesome.
Hey, Anthony, want to do some
Yeah.
karate in my garage?
Oh goodness. Oh my
Oh,
goodness.
boy.
Oh, that's awesome. Anthony, to you, buddy.
Man, guys, I really appreciate your time and just thank you for what you're doing for your waterfowl community. Much love from down here in Tennessee. And, you know, they call us hillbillies down here, but you know what? We're a lot like you guys up there. But
Absolutely.
anyway, I appreciate everything you're doing for your community up there. Just keep on doing it. And if I can ever help anybody on here, reach out to me. I'll be glad to. And not many people are going to do this, but I'm going to do this. If you need to reach me, my telephone number is 423-333-9699. I appreciate you guys. If I can ever do anything, anybody on the podcast, if we can help you in any way, we're calling with hunting techniques, with anything in general. If you just want to talk about waterfowling or turkey hunting or hunter education, give us a call. We'll be glad to help you.
That's awesome. And Anthony and I did briefly talk about doing a YouTube live thing where we would have some some listeners interacting. So we're going to work on that idea and try and put that together. But as you all know, I'm not that. Maybe Dave is going to have to figure that out, not Damien. Anthony, buddy, I can't stress it enough. We are extremely blessed, and you'll never understand, even though you say you do. But I promise you that you won't. You will not understand how important this is and how appreciative we are that you took your time this evening to come on and chat with us. I feel we can do 3 or 4 more shows just on picking your brain and letting you run and let you go, and have your chats and pass on your wisdom. I promise you, I'll wait for you to send me an email, but if it goes too long, I'm going to send you an email and make sure I get you back on here, because I think I think you're a wonderful human being, and I think everybody they're going to want to hear more from you. With that, everybody, this was the latest episode of the Union 0430. We are going to, Mark went and searched it up. Dave is going to take care of it, but we are going to put the GoFundMe page information up on our social media for the boys in Tennessee. And from the bottom of our hearts, we really do hope that you can find it in you to help out the families of these 2 fellas. Great boys. And with that, big love to every one of yous, and we'll see you next time. Take care, everybody.